situation where Preckwinkle and Pitcherley got in through a window should be rescinded, or is there a way to rescind it, or how do you think you'll address it?
We're looking at options on all of the above, because it's pretty egregious what we saw, the ability, as we know, to substitute for one day, and I think there may be a question of other people doing the same thing that just hasn't surfaced yet, but our speculation is more people have taken advantage of that as well.
Is there, if you're unable to undo some of these, is there any thought to giving a bill that would maybe tax pensions that kind of fit this profile?
Well, I think all of these questions are good ones. The issue is what's constitutional, and how do you address all of this in a constitutional but effective way? And we're working through our options, and we're going to work with the Speaker's office as well to see what his thoughts are.
How much does this help your argument for pension reform on a larger scale?
I think it's one of the kind of central themes in 512 is that people are not paying for the cost of their benefit, and that's one of the issues going on in this debate as well. So, and also just the attention of the issue itself certainly helps. I mean, now there's a distinction between a rank and file teacher who does everything they've asked. I clearly get that and believe that there's a distinction, but in terms of the overall issue, I think it certainly keeps the attention on pensions. But I think one of the issues you're seeing is, we started to hear some questions about from the folks at Quest today, but one of the central problems with this whole issue of leave of absences is that the unions are making their contributions for the employee. Sometimes we're told in the appropriate amount, sometimes not. The problem, though, lies in the fact that beyond that, the pensions, the unions have no skin in the game after that. So if there's an underfunding or any additional liability, their liability is done when they make their payment, and it falls back to either the city or the state. So that's one of the crux of the problems of this issue we're talking about today. It's not the 512 issue, but it all boils down to underfunding, and people are getting benefits they're not paying for. So that we've got to continue to stay focused on that.
Tom, I had a union representative say that they came up with their payments based on thin air at different times, and is there any thought to making sure that these pension benefits and payments are based on actuarial accounting and not having people who in effect don't really know what they're doing making up what the payments should be and what the benefits should be?
512 is based on actuarial numbers of trying to figure out what is the true cost of the benefit you're going to receive, and that's one of the reasons people don't like those numbers, because the cost to fund a defined benefit plan is not inexpensive, but it has been done from an actuarial standpoint.
Broader changes to the pension system as a whole, is that something you're looking to do this fall, or is that more of a long-term thing for the spring?
On this issue?
No, just on underfunding of pensions.
512, oh, we're continuing to, believe me, we're staying very focused on 512, and I'm still of the opinion we need to get that done sooner than later.
But is it something you think can or will be done this fall, or is it more of a long-term?
Oh, I think it can be done. I mean, look, we all know the issue. It's never going to be something that's pleasant, but it's something, if we don't address, I'd encourage people to see what's going on in Rhode Island, where you may wake up one day and there's not a check in the mailbox, and that doesn't do anybody any good.
You mentioned you thought that the IFT things were egregious. What's egregious about them?
The ability to substitute teach for a day, to allow you to get into a teacher retirement system that puts you at a very, very high pension. Egregious would probably be an understatement. And scamming of the system, a gaming of the system, you name it. It's the old saying, if it looks too good to be true, it usually is.
Did you have any idea this was going on and this bill went through?
No idea at all.
Have you communicated to IFT about your surprise of this?
Not yet.
What do you think you'll tell them?
I'm thinking about how I'm going to handle that.
What do you think the IFT rank and file should feel about this?
Well, I think it does nothing to help their cause. It shines a very, very bad light on them. And I would hope that they would be as outraged as any of us are as taxpayers. It's just, it's crazy to think we're even having this conversation.
Do you think you'll amend this bill with something on that? Is that what you're looking at?
We're having that discussion as soon as I'm done here over the next day or two.
Jack Franks has already introduced a bill or attempted to introduce a bill that would rescind the plans that they have. What's your feeling?
Yeah, look, I'm going to be as aggressive as I can, but I want something to stick, and I want something to be effective, and I want something to be constitutional. So we'll go as far as we can to the extent we think something is constitutional and effective. And look, if I could just walk in and snap my fingers and take it away from the folks that have abused it, you do that. But we've got laws we've got to follow. As frustrating as that is.
Like the constitutional guarantee will affect them as well to not take back pensions. You're speculating.
That's a question, and we're working through that.
What else is on your agenda for meeting with the speaker? Besides pensions, anything else?
We'll know in a little while.
You have nothing that you want to bring up? Particularly, I mean, these facility closures or hearings are going on. Republicans have said they're in Republican districts. I want to talk to them about jobs. We've been talking about jobs for a while. I think we need to take a broader-based approach to how we handle jobs. Clearly, I'd like to see the corporate tax increase repealed. I don't know that that's something that'll happen, but we've got some ideas that we think, and I've given them to the speaker, I've given them to the mayor, I've talked to the governor about them, of a broader-based approach from some tax credits and incentives for all businesses, and I'd like to see that taken up in this veto session. So thanks.
Thanks.
Joe McCoy, Legislative Director for the Illinois Municipal League. Thanks for joining us again on the Illinois Channel.
Oh, my pleasure, Terry.
We're actually here in one of the House committee rooms at the state capitol as the Illinois legislature reconvenes for the fall veto session. And one of the primary bills that's under consideration is Senate Bill 512, which has to do with altering the benefits, the pension benefits for current state retirees. I understand you've done an analysis on this, and we're hoping maybe you can break it down for some of our viewers. What would the bill in essence do?
Sure, Terry. Let me begin by saying that the bill doesn't affect any of the non-Chicago municipal pension funds. That would be the downstate and suburban police and fire funds or the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund. But the Illinois Municipal League has a strong interest in pensions. We put out several studies over the years on pensions and the funding travails that are experienced by the different pension funds, so we naturally have an interest in Senate Bill 512. What Senate Bill 512 does, as you said, is it would essentially give employees a choice, current employees within 4 of the 5 state-funded pension systems. The only system that's been left out are the judges. And the bill also includes some Chicago and Cook County funds. And it essentially gives these current employees a choice between keeping their existing benefit levels and paying a higher employee contribution rate, or continuing at their existing employee contribution rate and then receiving reduced benefits for their time going forward. So any time that's already been served and that they've already accrued would not be affected, but their time into the future would be changed based upon their choice. And the third choice would be to go into a defined contribution plan.
Would that third choice be similar to a 401k plan?
Very much so. That is the spirit of that choice.
What would the cost be to the state for these different pensions? Presumably the state would end up saving money. Have you run an analysis on that?
There hasn't been a professional analysis conducted on what the cost savings would be for the state. Obviously, the state does believe that it would save considerable money, and it would begin to get into the existing state pension debt, which is estimated at somewhere between $80 and $90 billion. And so the state is really trying to find strategies and ways to reduce that pension debt. They think Senate Bill 512 is the answer. However, as far as I know, nobody has yet concluded or conducted an analysis on Senate Bill 512.
Have you done a benefit analysis to see how would it alter the benefits of current state workers?
I don't remember all of the details offhand, but we have, as I said, conducted a study. It's available on our website, and it lists all the different employee contribution rates that would change from the existing rates. It includes all the different benefits that would be available in the existing Tier 2 plan, and it talks a little bit about the defined contribution plan.
And for the benefit of those, we'll put it up on the screen, but what is your website?
It's the Illinois Municipal League at www.iml.org.
And obviously when you're dealing with pensions, there's a host of variables in there, and it can become very complicated very quickly. It's hard, I know, to just paraphrase what something is, and a lot of these people, of course, are very concerned for understandable reasons. We don't want to misstate what it would be. But then there's a question, I know you're not an attorney, and it's anyone's guess how ultimately a challenge that would probably go to the Illinois Supreme Court would go. But the argument has long been you can't change the benefit formulas of current workers, that's guaranteed in the Constitution. Have you talked to any people in the Capitol here to where they're voicing their opinion as to why they think it would pass legal muster?
There are those who strongly believe, and they're supported by a memorandum put out by the law firm of Sidley and Austin, that it is not a violation of the diminishment clause of the Constitution if you're talking about reducing benefits or increasing employee contributions for time that has not yet been accrued. There are those on the other side of the issue. In this case, it's the public employee unions who vehemently argue that the Constitution prevents any kind of diminution whatsoever, whether you're talking about past service or service not yet accrued. Their argument is that once you're in the system, you are protected by the Constitution and your benefit levels cannot be reduced. So I do think that if this bill, Senate Bill 512, were to be passed through both chambers and then to be enacted into law by the governor, that we would most definitely see a challenge that would probably go all the way up to the Illinois State Supreme Court on the constitutionality of the issue. And truthfully, Terry, until that actually happens, I don't think anybody really knows exactly whether it is constitutional or not.
Aside from the pensions seem to be one of the primary things that we're looking at, and there's a variety of issues there relative to the fall veto session, not the only issue. But are there any other issues the Illinois Municipal League is following this veto session that you're keen about?
Well, Terry, we're very concerned about the loss of local government revenue, especially the state beginning to divert money that's collected on behalf of local governments by the state. We had a major fight last year over protecting our share of the income tax revenue that's collected by the state on behalf of local governments. We were successful in that fight in securing those funds for essential core public services at the local level. An issue that's coming up during the veto session that we're very concerned about is the proposal to divert somewhere between $11 and $12 million from corporate personal property replacement taxes away from municipalities, school districts, and other local governments. And that money would then be diverted and used to fund regional superintendents of schools. If you recall, their salaries, benefits, and service dollars were vetoed out of the budget by the governor. We believe that a better solution than diverting the money away from municipal governments and school districts and other local governments and putting it toward the superintendents is for the General Assembly to instead overturn the governor's veto and restore the funding if they believe that regional superintendents of schools are an essential office that perform an essential function. The Municipal League has no position on that particular question, but we do have strong objections to the prospect of the state taking local government dollars to fund expenditures and financial obligations that have up till now been the responsibilities of the state.
And in the big scheme of things, $11 million is a lot of money to you and me, but in the big scheme of things, it's not necessarily a lot of money. Is it more the question of setting a principle that the state could go in and take monies that you feel are due to communities around the state?
That's exactly the issue, Terry. As I had said, we already lost, or we're in a fight. We thought we might lose local government distributive fund money, which is the income tax dollars that are collected by the state and given to municipal governments. We were successful in forestalling the General Assembly from taking that money, but then a few months later, here we are in the veto session, and we see legislation that would authorize diversions from corporate personal property replacement tax money, which funds essential public services that are delivered by local governments. We see an effort to take that money and use it to fund an obligation of the state, and that has us very concerned that we're now moving into territory where the state's going to look to cost shift onto local governments.
All right. Well, Joe McCoy will follow the events as they transpire, and we appreciate you taking the time to speak with us.
Thank you, Terry. Anytime.
You're watching the Illinois Channel, an independent nonprofit corporation formed to provide gavel-to-gavel coverage of Illinois state government and other public affairs events taking place across Illinois.